RuBru means face-to-face in the Urdu language. If you are a Muslim, the Rubru-ftf series can help you find your bearings on where Muslims stand today in relation to their recent past. All viewers may find many of the misconceptions floating around, corrected by the information the Rubru-ftf series supplies.
This brief overview addresses the basic question of whether or not Muslims still regress. Yes, Muslims did regress in their recent past. Their long history spans periods of progression and regression. Having recovered from setbacks of the Crusades' hold of their lands in the 11th to 13th century, and the Mongol takeover of their lands in the 13th to 15th century, another setback pushed them into colonial control from the 18th to 20th century. Muslims did fully recover from two previous setbacks, but have only partly recovered from the colonization, which not only used brute force but also new techniques to influence the minds of the colonized. Ngugi wa Thiong'o of Kenya, in his book, Decolonizing the Mind, writes about this influence on minds. It makes the colonized see their past as one wasteland of non-achievement and makes them want to distance themselves from that wasteland. Ngugi wa Thiong'o has rightly pointed out the coloniality-driven view of the colonized as a worthless entity. The impact of this view on our basic question is obvious. Decoloniality is an ongoing broad intellectual and political movement that critiques the current effects of colonialism in culture, politics, knowledge production, and economics. The movement aims to dismantle colonial structures, epistemologies, and fabricated information that persist even after formal colonial rule has ended. Nostalgia impacts the view on our basic question in that, according to some Muslims, regress as long as they do not regain their past glory. Empires have risen and fallen throughout human history. All ex-empires presently live as rump states in their small countries, and so do the Muslims. Expecting an exception in the case of a Muslim empire is an open invitation to frustration, which we often encounter when our basic question is addressed. We also see pessimism at work on our basic question. An excessively pessimistic mind usually expects unfavorable outcomes and is suspicious even when things seem to be going well. The end product of excessive pessimism is the doom-gloom merchant, not uncommon on our basic question. The time scale of the issue under consideration is another important aspect of our basic question. Let us not forget that Europe took about 350 years to shake off its medieval mindset. Muslims took about 200 years to completely regain their lands from the Crusaders, and about the same time to recover from Mongol destruction. The graph on screen shows variations in a phenomenon over 100 years. The green line shows short-term variations, and the red line represents the variation trend. The variation from the year 50 to year 60 green line, in the short term, is downwards while the overall trend, even in this period, is upwards. The ongoing phenomenon of recovering from colonial influence needs to be viewed over the long term instead of a few years, as some of us tend to do. In his Allahabad address in 1930, Iqbal made a profound observation. One lesson I have learnt from the history of Muslims. At critical moments in their history, it is Islam that has saved Muslims and not vice versa. The Quran has been the anchor of Muslims' hope throughout history. It demands a firm faith, continuous action, and after action, despair not of Allah's mercy is its command to its followers. Its message is simple and elegant. In the context of our basic question, revival has been a feature repeatedly activated in Muslim history following crises and setbacks. The ongoing work on revival after colonial rule continues in the Muslim world with visible results. The views of a leading AI assistant ChatGPT, shared in Rubru Brief 1, Education, Rubru Brief 2, Defense, Rubru Brief 3, Economic Development, Rubru Brief 4, Science and Technology, and Rubru Brief 5, Human Resource Development, all point to an unmistakable observation of ChatGPT that Muslims have progressed, not regressed, in all these areas during the last 8 decades after freedom from colonization. Let us understand that slow progress does not mean no progress.